Hello, and welcome to episode 47 of Nintendo Therapy, a show about the latest Nintendo news and rumors, as well as a celebration of all things Nintendo. My name is Kevin, and with me this week to talk about levels filled with snow, ice, and music with bells in it is Sean.
Music with bells in it.
Yeah, they usually,
I,
the ice levels usually have
I
bells.
mean, yeah, okay.
And
I
Harrison.
I guess some of the levels I'll talk about today have bells. I guess so. I'm
I
not.
think my
I'm look.
list is bell-less, so.
No, there's no way.
Sean, it's been great to see you this week. But there's no bells.
Sans bell. So what we're kind of hinting at there, listeners, is we're going to be doing, we already did our favorite, where did we start? Summer levels, and we did our favorite fall levels. So naturally, the next thing is our favorite winter levels. And we're just going to kind of have a free form discussion here before we get into our spotlight game and a little bit of news later on. So I want to start here with I don't know if you've played this yet, Sean, because I think this is a game you said you haven't played, but one of my favorite winter/Christmas levels in a video game has to be Banjo-Kazooie Freezy Peak. Have you guys played this?
Not yet, but I'm intrigued now just from the ridiculous title.
I was watching this last night because it seems to be one of the most popular ones.
It's because it's got that giant Christmas tree. Like so many times in a game, you'll get a winter level, but Christmas themed levels aren't as common. I think there's a few I have on my list here, and I'm sure there's more that I couldn't think of. But I think we can all agree just having it be snow themed is more common than Christmas themed. And this one's really cool. Not only does it have the giant Christmas tree there, but there's like Christmas lights strung throughout the level, and it's just, I don't know, the vibes, as the kids say, the vibes are just so this level is what winter break in like middle school feels like. You know what I mean?
So do you have to fight Santa at the end of it?
No. Snowmen, there's snowmen enemies.
Okay.
They're scary snowmen, and the Christmas tree is just there. There's just a Christmas tree, and you just look at it.
No, there's stuff to collect. I think there's notes on the tree, and I'm sure one of the puzzle pieces, which is basically the Banjo-Kazooie equivalent of the stars from Mario 64, revolve around the tree in some way. I can't quite remember. It's been a while, but I do remember you spent a lot of time around the tree, so there's got to be some objectives going on over there.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. Now, like, do you remember in the game, do they ever say like Christmas? Because I'm thinking of my first game that I'll talk about.
I don't think so. I think it's just that there's a tree with lights and presents under it, but I don't think they say the word Christmas in any of the dialogue. And by dialogue, I mean the gibberish they speak and then put text on the screen.
Because
That's what they all sound like.
really,
Well, different versions of that.
give me some presents. Yeah. I don't know what they say. Yeah, but I asked because my first submission for this, of course, is Toy Day, Animal Crossing. And
Oh, there you go.
and
Yeah, okay. What is the Santa Claus called in that?
Jingle. So Toy Day on New Horizons was Christmas Eve, and on GameCube it was like on the first game it was on the 23rd, which as a kid and even now as like I think that it was a really smart decision. Some people didn't like that it wasn't actually on Christmas Day, but for me I thought like, okay, 23rd you have Toy Day, then Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, you're with your family. So I always thought that was really cool. and they do have an event. At least on the GameCube version, they did have an event on Christmas Eve as well. So I think about like mostly the GameCube version, having snow day, the first day of December, waiting for the first snow, getting all your shirts ready because you would find Jingle, and if you annoyed him enough, like you had to talk to him 5 times before he's like, "Hey, get out of here! Like here's a gift or something." But like if you left and you change your clothes enough, like you change your color, your shirt color enough. I don't know what that means, but you like go back to him and you talk to him again 5 times and you get like another present.
That's a great pick because I know like the game does a great job of setting up the Christmas feel in general. Like I don't know if they all do this, but I remember what was the DS one, New Leaf, had lights all around the town like throughout Christmas, and more snowmen. Like you could build that snowman by rolling the ball. And yeah, Animal Crossing does a fantastic job of giving out the winter / Christmas vibes.
Yeah, fall might be the ultimate season, but the Christmas holiday is definitely the best holiday in the game. And I think Nintendo was smart. I bring up what I said with your game because they never say Christmas, they say Toy Day. But of course, Jingle has Santa hats. We have Christmas trees. But I think it was very smart because they knew developing it in Japan, of course, like not everyone celebrates Christmas, even though it's obviously Christmas. So,
and before we get too far away from it, I did just remember in Banjo-Kazooie, a thing that's very Christmas themed about that level is one of the objectives in the level is you light up the Christmas tree. That gives you a reward. So it's very Christmassy. Very
cool.
I mean, it's not scamming somebody for presents, so I don't know if it's as good as Harrison's, but
well, what do you got, Sean? What's
I'm a Scrooge. I don't have any Christmas related levels.
Okay. Just sticking to the snow.
I went old school for all of them though, so Gorilla Glacier from the original Donkey Kong Country. I just remember I had that VHS preview tape they sent out randomly before the game came out, and they had that whole section about, well, the technology's there now that we can do layered snow. And I was like, oh my god, that looks amazing. And I think I got Donkey Kong Country for that Christmas, and I remember getting to that part and just kind of being in awe at the layers of pixelated snow that they had on the screen. Like, that was the most amazing thing in the world to me. But I don't like snow and ice levels. I guess they're like my water levels for some people, but I do really like the Donkey Kong ones, and I don't feel like they've topped the original. Like, every single one of those levels is great. The sliding ice mechanic doesn't irritate me.
They have this like pre-rendered look to them too that reminds me of like Final Fantasy VII, which is a plus in my mind, not a negative.
So I mean, I guess the only thing that's disappointing about that world is the boss is just a reskin of the first boss.
So Sean, there's lots of snow and everything, but like when you think about this game, do you feel nostalgia for winter as well?
I do for the original, because like I said, I think I got it around Christmas. I was gonna go with Tropical Freeze's Last World, but it's still not as good as the original Gorilla Glacier. But like I said, I'm not as big on winter stuff, though I had a really easy time coming up with my list. But there's still no bells. Like, there's no bells through any of the music in Donkey Kong Country.
That's unusual, because even sometimes when it's just snowy, they put the sleigh bells in the music. Even when it has nothing to do with Christmas. But I'll take your word for it. So the next one I wanted to talk about, Kirby's Epic Yarn, which more Kirby to come at the end of this episode. But this is a Kirby game that I really like. Some of his games are very hit or miss. And This is another one that's like a Christmassy level too. Like there's all kinds of like Christmas lights strewn about, and it's, you know, not a very creative name. It's Snowland, but you know, it's doing its job. Has anyone played this one?
No.
Oh man.
Was that a Wii game?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
trying to think. It was.
Yeah, it was
okay.
a Nintendo Wii game. Or it
Yeah,
might have been the
I-
Wii U.
I don't know. Kirby's a big blind spot for me usually.
Yeah.
No, it was
Yeah,
Nintendo Wii. It was Nintendo Wii.
But I
So
that had like the Yoshi's Woolly World, Crafted World type thing going, right?
exactly.
Yeah, they did.
Aesthetically.
That was where it started, I think.
Okay.
And then they spun it over to Yoshi.
So that's not. Isn't there another Kirby game where you just like kind of have to draw lines for him to go on?
That's a DS game, and yes,
That's a DS
and
game.
that one not so good.
Okay. So
this
Epic
one-
Yarn, no, I didn't play, but that.
I mean, it's
I can see
another.
that.
It's like any Kirby game, and we'll talk about this more at the end of the episode. But like when we do the spotlight game, but like yes, there's no challenge to it, and yes, it's like impossible to game over, but it's still like because of the yarn theme. Like it's got such great visuals that you just keep going just to
Mhm.
see what the game looks like. You know, you just constantly want to see more of what it looks like. So
So do they do snow with stuffing or?
no,
do they do
I Google imaged it to bring it up, and how do I describe this? Like, so it looks kind of like a fabric book, I guess you could say. I don't, you know, like how they make those for like kids,
Mhm.
and the pages are all thick. Like that's kind of what the backgrounds look like. Is it looks like not yarn, but it looks like fabric.
Mhm.
Okay.
Kind of layered, kind of like how the original South Park cartoons looked too. Like
Okay.
how it was just
Yeah, look-
construction paper layered on top of stuff.
Yeah,
It's what Woolly World crafted World ended up being. Exactly.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so I should know this because I did the research for today. Is Epic Yarn a mainline Kirby game? I should know this because I did the timeline for this episode. But
I have no idea.
you see,
Kirby.
you see exactly. Like I'm so lost in all the Kirby games, but
Oh, yeah.
I think there's like 11 that are considered to be mainline, and then like a million others for Switch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know
that's-
because it's got its own like unique story to it, so it might be its own thing. But like Kirby's basically dabbled in almost every genre, so it's hard to say what's mainline and what's not.
But you're right. We were talking about it earlier. There should be a Kirby RPG. It would be.
Yeah,
so
it's like the only
easy
thing he
to do
hasn't
that.
done, and you know, it'd be great to see like an RPG system where you combine the powers of the enemies you defeat or something.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
there's
it would
there's no Kirby roguelike, or there's no like Smash Brothers roguelike, which I'm kind of like surprised about, but like that's something totally different. That's
It's
something
an interesting
that-
idea, though.
Yeah. I just imagine like Kirby, or you pick a character and you go through these worlds and you get buffs and you get stronger and you get maybe companions along the way. But I'm just surprised that Nintendo hasn't made a Hades game. Basically, that's all.
Okay.
Can I do the Breath of the Wild part of this episode? Because
Yeah,
If you'd
sure.
like to go for it.
because I've been wanting to talk about the secret of Snowy Peak's Shrine Quest for so long that it's finally time. So the
Was that
secret
the
of
one
Snowy
near the bowling area?
it's in Gerudo Highlands.
No, I got so good at that bowling game that I could basically like get as much money as I ever needed. I could get a strike every time. But go on.
It might have been. So this one, it's not in Hebra Mountains, which is the coldest part. I looked it up. Hebra Mountain is at night negative 81 degrees Fahrenheit. It's true. It's a true fact.
That's pretty
Um,
cool.
Funny that Hyrule
Yeah,
uses
pretty cool.
Fahrenheit.
Well, I'm actually not. That's actually, yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, anyways, like they don't believe in the metric system over there. But it's in Secret of Snowy Peaks Shrine Quest. It's in Gerudo Highlands, and you go up on this mountain, and when you get there, you see this pedestal on that's vertical on a mountain that's facing you, and there's like a little like cabin or like the old cabinets on there with a diary that gives you the hint. And what you have to do is you have to take one of the snowballs and you have to line it up. You have to hold it up and line it up with the shadow of the pedestal, and you have to wait for basically the snowball to reach the center of the pedestal. And once you do it correctly, if you don't do it correctly, it won't work. But once you do it correctly, it'll light up and then the shrine pops up. Mm-hmm. And it is one of the coolest mechanics. It's one of the coolest ideas in that game. Like, I just love how like there's so many parts of that game where you're like, you have to like look up in the sky and like shoot an arrow between these between the tower or something or whatever it is.
I totally agree, and like that's something I feel like Tears of the Kingdom didn't do as well. Is Breath of the Wild had those moments where the game would just breathe, and there's a few moments like that in the game where the game forces you to just stand there, and then like you'll hear like the breeze go by, and then like the music will kick in, and you're just like, it's so zen, you know what I mean? And I don't think Tears of the Kingdom ever recreated those moments as well as Breath of the Wild did them.
It's so cool. I mean, it's just I just think about the first time I ever figured it out and I did it, and like I'm kind of ruining it if you've never done it before, but I realized that if you put a fire weapon on your back, it'll melt the snowball. So if it's too big, you can melt it as you're holding it up to try and line it up with the shadow. And the first time it lit up, I remember that feeling of being like, oh my god, like that was so cool. And it's just like a lived in memory now. So I'm happy that I get to talk about it, because there's a few Shrine Quests that I really just am passionate about, care about a lot.
I remember the bowling thing. I don't think I ever got that shrine, but
that's all right.
Yeah,
I bowling.
I had an honorable mention for Zelda for snow, but
what's that?
The snowboarding in Twilight Princess.
Oh,
I can't remember. Is the Yeti a boss in a temple?
So his wife kind of is, but she's got the crystal madness.
I couldn't remember exactly, but I remember the snowboarding part of that was cool.
Yeah, no, I love the snowboarding part. What's your next winter?
As far as an actual pick, the Battle of Hoth for Super Empire Strikes Back.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Just I don't know, they did such a good job on that with limited resources, and
it's incredible how the Nintendo 64 version of the same battle on Shadows of the Empire is like directly comparable, and that's on the Super Nintendo. It's crazy. That's got to be one of the best 3D simulations on the Super Nintendo. Because
that's another, I just remember it. Like, it feels like you're actually there, and you gotta, pay attention to the terrain you're on, and the way they actually got it where you're tripping the walkers. Because I didn't think you could accomplish that stuff on a 16-bit system. Mm-hmm. So I was really, that might be my favorite version of that ever. I don't think anything's done it as well as that. Shadows of the Empire might be close, but
Rogue Squadron does a. Did
that
they
one
do
was
that level?
I know you Rogue Walkers. One of them.
Okay.
I don't remember which one, but I think one of them did it, and then Lego Star Wars did it pretty good. But It's a Lego game, so it's kind of hard to screw up. But no, I don't know. I'm still impressed by that whole thing to this day, and I just wish they'd re-release those games. But
well, while we're on the subject of Star Wars, I want to say something that this is another conversation I was having this week that I don't know. I have nothing else to do with this information, so I'm just going to drop it here. Just something I don't see discussed often for Star Wars is that, for better or for worse, Attack of the Clones is the most influential Star Wars movie for the franchise. Think about it this way. Attack of the Clones decided almost everything. It decided what the Clone Wars were. It shaped what the next 15 years of extended universe materials were about. It gave us Hayden Christensen as Anakin. Like, I think people forget that that's where it started. You know what I mean? They like forget that it was a different actor in the first movie or something.
No.
It's where the concept of the clone army started. Like, even the Disney era movies had to reckon with what Attack of the Clones decided was the origin of the Death Star, with those bug creatures. So, like, I don't know. Most of Star Wars histories, most of the Star Wars universe, I can't talk. Most of the Star Wars universe's history was defined like in that movie, and it's nuts because it's also the movie that's the least interested in any of those things.
Right.
But just I have nothing else to do with that rant. I just think it's kind of crazy when you think about Attack of the Clones being the movie that shaped Star Wars universe the most. Anyway, my next pick. It's nothing to do with...
It's a good take, though. It's a good take. I'm thinking about it now. Is it most influential? Okay.
Yeah. And obviously I said at the beginning, like, for better or for worse. Like, I don't mean, like, I just mean, like, a lot of the stuff that was just, like, hinted at before, like, Obi-Wan talking about the Clone Wars, that's the movie that told us what those Clone Wars were. Anyway. Mario 64. Can't do a winter level list.
I was going to say, I knew that was coming.
You gotta have both of them. Snowman's Land is underrated. Everyone wants to talk about Cool Cool Mountain, where you drop the penguin off the edge. Obligatory mention of that. And you got your little slide level there. But Cool Cool Mountain's awesome. I mean, Snowman's Land is cool too, because I remember loving that weird ice maze thing that the game had as a kid. Like, being one of the first 3D games we ever played, like, it was so cool to have that little ice maze, and you got to get the invisible cap to, like, run through the walls. That area was awesome.
That's the tweet. Agree. I think I think those are, like, even levels, really.
Yep.
Because they both do completely different stuff with it. Like, I do like when you have to try and get past the giant snowman that blows you off the bridge.
Yeah, what did you do for that? Because apparently the way I get around that area is different than most people. Did you hide in front of the penguin to get across?
That's usually how I've done it. I don't...
So here's a trick I learned. I don't know
any other way.
I haven't seen most people do this. If you do a backflip, you can get on the penguin's head, and you won't get blown off, and then you don't have to move. He literally will walk you across for you.
Oh, that's a good little hack. I like that.
I don't know if it's intentional or not, but that's always how I've done it. And then I can't remember where somebody was talking to me about this, but I remember them saying, "Oh, I never tried it that way," and I was like, "Oh, that's the only way I've ever done it." Is I backflip onto that guy's head.
Although Cool Cool Mountain, the last time I tried playing through the game, I didn't realize it had that shortcut that you can't use in the race.
Oh yeah, yep.
Against the penguin, I totally accidentally, like, oh my god, this thing's been here this whole time. I had no idea, and he's like, nope, you cheated.
Oh, did you know if you go back after getting all 120 stars, he's bigger?
No.
Like, for some, that's something they put in the game for some reason. After you get 120 stars in Mario 64, if you go back to Cool Cool Mountain, the penguin is like twice the size he was before, and there's really no reason behind it. It's not any better at racing or anything, and you don't get any reward for racing them. It's just a weird thing.
I would think it'd be so they could throw you off the side.
He eats the coins?
Well, it's probably more challenging to race them because you can't get around them as easy, but like you don't get a reward for beating them or anything.
See, I always do that trying to jump from the top to the lower area you can land on, because I can't seem to beat them any other way.
The Nintendo 64 loved that trick, because think of how often they did it in Mario Kart 64 too. Like they just loved that blind leap of faith off the edge thing, because you also do it in the slide in the Princess Tower too, to get that time.
Oh yeah. I knew you were gonna bring it up though. I was like, there's no way he's getting through this list without a 3D
But of
Mario.
course.
Yeah, definitely.
If there was a snowy area in Mario RPG, that'd be on my list, but there's really not.
There's one in Odyssey. I thought you'd have that too.
Is that on your list?
No, that was the most annoying part of Odyssey, and what almost made me give up on getting all 880 moons was that second version of that bounce race. Ugh. So like it's basically luck. I probably did that race like 40 times until I eventually lucked into a win.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's because I don't know if you've done this, but like there's like a second version of the race that you have to do for one of the.
I think I tried it once and then I was like, eh.
You have to basically run the course perfect to get that moon.
Oh,
and
yeah, because that's easy to do.
yeah. So yeah, it's annoying. I don't think I'll ever collect all the moons in that game again. Glad I did it. Won't do it again.
So what do you get, Harrison?
Did either of you put World 6 from Mario Brothers 3 on your list?
Nope.
No.
I thought about it, but I didn't.
Yeah. Well, you know, because Sean, you said like ice levels or like water levels to you, and that's how it is for me. And like as a kid, you know, like I would get to World 6, and World 6 is like, well, as a kid it felt massive, but it is the biggest world map in all 8 of the worlds in that game. And I don't know, like as a kid, like I would get to World 6 and at that point you'd be playing for like 4 or 5 hours or something, and that was a world I never got through as a kid until I got older and I had like save states and stuff. And actually finished the game. So I don't have much to say on it. It just like when I think winter, I think about this, and I think about like not having fun with it at certain points. That's really all I have to say about it.
No, that's fair. That's completely fair.
Yeah, like, but it is my favorite game though, and playing it now, I quite enjoyed it, I think. But yeah. Sean, how about you? The rest of mine are like honorable mentions, I think. How about you?
So I went with Scene 3, Let's Melt Some Snow and Rebuild New York City in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game for NES. That's one of the levels they added, and it has the polar bear mutant boss at the end, and
the bounty hunter.
Such an awesome level. And
which we talked about on Ninja Turtle Nerds about like how has that bounty hunter never been reused?
He's
in
not
another Ninja
in
Turtle
anything
story.
else, and I'm like, it's a polar bear and it's got a leather jacket, and I don't know. I think it's really cool, but it has the robotic snowman, which I think multiple games have done that at this point, but I just remember them from that, and I like that the foot throw snowballs at you. Like they actually make an effort to do that. So I don't know. I think that's a really great level in that game. I like it more than the Shogun level, I think, is the other one they add with the samurai guy who can take his head off. But I would love to see an arcade, the arcade game version of that level, because that probably would have been really cool.
Yeah, up-res everything and like yeah exactly.
You said they added. I'm sorry. You said they added, Sean. What do you mean?
So they added 2 levels to the NES port of the Turtles arcade game, and I'd love to see if they reversed that, like when they did the 1-up arcades and stuff.
So they could put on the box with extra levels in big letters.
Yeah.
I just wish they did that more just in general when they release old games. Like that's really cool, very cool.
I've got two more picks. One's a Christmas level, and then one's just kind of winter that I feel are like solid picks, and then I have a runner-up. Because Harrison, you were talking about runners-up. So my solid pick is, here's my Christmas one, Diddy Kong Racing. The name of the specific track I'm thinking of is Snowflake Mountain, and it's a track where
that's a good one.
Now that I think of it, I don't know if it's Christmas specific, but it definitely feels Christmassy. You drive through like a snowy town, like mountain village, and like it's like kind of like nighttime because there's a giant moon in the sky, and like their lights are all on, but they have this like yellow glow coming out of the houses. It's just snow everywhere. It's snowing. Yeah, it's a great, like, I think of Christmas when I play this level. And one thing that I've been thinking about Diddy Kong Racing lately is I used to think there was no chance that this game will ever come to Switch Online. But now that we got Jet Force Gemini and GoldenEye, yeah, it feels like anything's possible at this point, doesn't it? Like, I never thought I'd see Mario RPG get another, like, new reactivation as a franchise. Like, Nintendo this year basically made me question what I know about anything. Like, they really
Which
were
was
like,
really
yeah, here's a bunch of stuff you never thought you'd see show up, all in the same year. And then my one that's just winter specific is, I don't have a specific area, but Metroid Prime, there are a lot of areas that are like icy. And I love that effect where like the visor starts to frost over, kind of like in the first Iron Man movie. And that's a really cool winter level for me.
So, what do I got left? So I have Chill Penguin stage from Mega Man X. I know
you didn't go with classic series? Because the first Mega Man game has Iceman.
It does, but I just remember Mega Man X was one of those things where it was probably the first time I discovered stuff in games on my own. Like, it wasn't like on the school bus, somebody going, oh, if you did this or did that. So the first time I realized if you beat Chill Penguin before Flame Mammoth and it makes Flame Mammoth stage all ice, that was such a cool thing to discover. But I think that's a fun level anyway, because again, you have enemies throwing snowballs. I think it's the first level in that game where you get the mech suit he can use and just go around and punch stuff.
Have you ever gotten the Hadouken in Mega Man X?
I think I've got it once. I know it's hard to get.
I don't know if I've ever gotten it.
But I really like the enemies in that. Like, there's just like snow bunnies that are trying to kill you, and robots that are just hacking away at endless tree trunks. So it just like resets so they can keep hitting you with it. And I know you prefer classic Mega Man. I think game-wise they're better. But I loved the idea that they were all animal-based in Mega Man X. And I just liked that it was a penguin. And it just had some like robotic elements to it. And it's a fun fight, like I like the momentum of it and the stages. So I don't know. That's one I just remember and really liked. And then my only other real honorable mention is Fort Frosty from Clay Fighter Tournament Edition. That's Bad Mr. Frosty's stage.
Okay.
But
what about Freeze Man from Mega Man 7?
I barely remember Mega Man 7. I think I've beaten that once. I didn't even remember they had reused the ice thing in that one, huh?
Oh, they've done a bunch of ice ones. You know what? I'm going to get a list while Harrison gives us whatever his runners-up are, because I think there's like 4 or 5 Mega Man ice villains.
I'm really liking the variety of different games they're coming up with on this. This is good. Looking through ones I was thinking of, Golf Story has a really cool winter area called Cold Wind Wastes.
That's a fun one. I remember that.
Yeah, that's a really fun one. It's been so long since I've replayed this game a couple of times, and now I can't remember exactly the fetch quest you go on, but I do remember it's fun, and then you collect something else to bring back to the mayor or something. I wanted to mention that I did play it on Switch. Immortals Phoenix Rising has a really cool winter snow area called King's Peak, which you can access later on in the game, and it's a bit annoying to traverse, but it's also pretty massive and very cool. That's one of those games that I've
that
never really
game
talked.
worth playing? Because I always hear people mention it, and I always debate when it goes on sale.
Here's my take on it. First of all, I would never buy an Ubisoft game full price, and this game is always on sale. You can find deluxe edition for 80% off on the eShop, and although it does lack the depth of Breath of the Wild, of course, which it's directly inspired from, it's an extremely fun game for an on-sale price. It's also, the story is very funny. At times it is fourth wall breaking, which is annoying to some people, but I don't think it's too bad. But typically, if you've played Ubisoft games, you kind of have an idea of what you're.
So it's still kind of the go find this tower to unlock the map and some of that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of stand on the big tower and look out and use binoculars and pinpoint some areas and go there. It is a lot of that, but I had a blast playing it because it's just beautiful to go through the world and discover different things. So again, it's always on sale, so I always thought it was worth it. I put down, of course, we're talking even before this episode, SSX3, Tricky. I've talked about Snowboard Kids a lot on this podcast. Snowboard Kids.
SSX was on GameCube, right?
Yep. Tricky. Wait, Tricky was first. Came out in 2001. Then the next one came out in 2003. Snowboard Kids. I'm not going to really say anything else. Just put it on the online service or bring it back. Make Snowboard Kids 3. Yes, something like that. Because I don't remember 1080 as well. But I mean, Snowboard Kids I thought held up pretty well. And that's it.
So there's at least.
Did they make a wacky motion control SSX for Wii? Or am I imagining that?
They did, didn't they? Didn't they make an SX game for the Wii?
I feel like they did that.
SSX Blur. They made SSX Blur. It was called.
Let's just go back to forgetting.
I think I played that.
What was it horrible?
I don't remember, but I think I played it.
That was the longest pause for I don't remember.
According to reviews, it wasn't bad, but I mean, I don't know.
It's better than the Tony Hawk one that you could use the Wii Fit board, or it came with a board, or I don't know.
Don't pretend you actually played that.
I didn't. I just remember it was a thing.
I remember playing it at other people's houses for sure.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
This just
what do you got from Mega Man?
So just from the X series, there are 5 ice-themed Mavericks.
Wow.
There's Frost Walrus, Blizzard Wolfang, not Fang. Well, maybe Blizzard Wolfang, but with 1 F. Chill Penguin, obviously. Blizzard Buffalo, and Avalanche Yeti. And that's just from the X series. I know there's a couple in the mainline series too. I'm pretty sure there's a Snowman, and I know there's a Frostman, and there's an Iceman.
Good
I mean,
for
they just
them for
want to
being
do it
able
whenever
to
they want to do a
use it.
level that's slippery. Let's be honest. So like we need a slippery level. Get an ice theme guy in here.
Kids learned their adjectives through Mega Man.
And yeah, I think that's all our winter levels. I think we should get into the news for the week. We got some quick bites, if you will. First one I just want to talk about real quick. We all knew it was going to happen, but as of November 2023, the Switch has passed the Xbox 360 to become the third best selling system of all time officially
There we go.
in America.
in America.
Yeah, in the U.S. I looked up, but the Switch is also third best selling all time in the world.
Yeah, I think
Um,
America was the last place it wasn't in the top three, so
right,
that's why it made the news. It's like it's finally in the top three
exactly.
everywhere now.
Right, but of course, like places like Japan, it's been top three for a while now,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's ever going.
I
It
don't
would
know
have
if
to
it's going to go
sell
higher than that.
DS. It would have to sell roughly about 20 million more units to pass up the DS. But to be fair,
Give me a
like
weekend.
the
I can do
DS,
it.
but but to be yeah, I mean honestly, like what I've seen from Facebook, 20 million is like two people. It's like two people collecting Switches from what I've seen on Facebook. Yeah.
Oh my God. I saw
Um.
someone on Twitter this week who was showing off their Switch collection, and they were like, this is the Switch where I have my Zelda games. This is the Switch where my Mario games are. It's like, why? Why are you doing this? Why do you have themed Switches? That's crazy.
You don't
Yeah.
remember when we
Yeah.
used to do that? You'd get separate Super NESs every time you'd start a new series.
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't put anything but F-Zero in that one.
um,
And to be fair, DS is also is also handheld, and there's many more iterations of it. Had a very long life cycle, and what more can you say about the DS? I mean, so I have a hard time believing that it's ever going to pass up DS and of course PS2. But
so this other news story that you had here, was this the one you wanted to talk about, Harrison, where
it's kind of
Nintendo
fun.
kind of, what's that?
It's kind of fun, I think.
Yeah, Nintendo kind of shot down the idea of there ever being a Mario Maker style Zelda game, which as soon as I saw the headline, I was like, well, that makes sense. A Zelda game is a lot more complex than just making a side scrolling Mario game where you just lay the tiles down and you go from left to right. You know, you have to make puzzles, you have to make a world map, basically. It's a much more complicated idea, but it it was kind of a hope of mine when they did Link's Awakening and they gave you that little
Oh yeah.
dungeon editor, you know?
Mm.
You could make tiles like that and make a game where it plays like the original Zelda game, you know, or
Yeah.
Link's Awakening even, where when you move from screen to screen, it's kind of a tile for each one. But
Yep.
I guess they don't want to do that.
I still
Well,
feel like it'd be pretty complex even then.
yeah, I think it would, but again, like you'd have options, just with like the same with Mario Maker of is like, do you make it just top down, or do you do you know, or is it more than just that? I mean, like
It's also a big time investment too. Like
Yeah.
Mario Maker works because it takes 2 minutes to do a Mario level. You know, no one's going to want to play through 100 different Zelda games that are made by people who probably aren't making games that are that great.
so like, and this is just for fun. I mean, basically. This is from a Polygon interview, and this is not a rumor. It's just a question that was brought up, and then an article was written about it, and it's just kind of fun to talk about. I thought,
Hmm.
but if Nintendo made Nintendo Dungeon Maker, and users could submit their own dungeons or shrines or whatever you want to call it, and you could play them. I mean, would you play a game like that?
See, that's where Nintendo can get into the roguelites. Is they
Mhm.
combine it with the dungeon maker.
I could totally see there being an audience for that, but I don't think I'm that audience. I
I
don't think
would give it a shot,
would.
I think, but that's because I've gotten into that stuff as I've gotten older.
There's something about fan made stuff where it just like my brain dismisses it. And like even Mario Maker, I never got into the Mario Maker games, and I'm like, because none of this is an official Mario level, so it's not real to me. I don't know why that matters to me, but for some reason it does.
Because nobody at Nintendo's going to be, watch how much stuff I'm going to put on the screen and how almost impossible this is to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's more depth than that than some things. Yeah, I mean, like
that's why I said like I can see how there is an audience for it. I'm just not in that audience.
Yeah, I think there would be a huge audience for it. I play Mario Maker sometimes, and I never regretted like having it on my system because it's something that's it's constantly like kind of growing and being added to, and I think that's cool that Nintendo actually has like some kind of workshop idea thing within their IPs. I just think that it's cool that they have one of those. I'm not really the audience for it either. I would never create levels, but I do enjoy seeing what other people come up with. So yeah,
I
it would
I
never
would
happen.
try a dungeon one, but I Mario Maker's not one I ever got into.
Yeah.
If it was Donkey
would
Kong
never
Country Maker, then I would play it. So,
Okay. I would. I think I would look at that too. I think I would. But with that, just comes a speculation of where Zelda's going next with in Nintendo. Of course, it'll be the new system, and it's not going to be Tears of the Kingdom. It's going to be something different. So, who knows? They said they're
your
excited about it.
point and click rhythm game is going to be the next Zelda game.
Well, I played Cadence of Hyrule. That was pretty fun. I think I'm fine.
Terrible at that type of game.
I'm pretty good, but I'm also kind of a podcast gamer. So yeah, there's also that.
Crypto the Necrodancer I got on sale. I'm like, oh, let me try this, and I was not good at it. So
Yeah. God, I remember watching that indie direct, and wow, what a cool announcement that was! Like for an indie developer to get Zelda is just really cool. It's just I want to know what that email or that process was like, or just even bringing up that idea. Like, can
they
we have
just
it?
sent them the game and went, we want to do this, but with Zelda.
Yeah, yeah, and then them being like, okay,
All right,
So-
spotlight time.
slow news week for sure. This is
Yeah.
good. Okay,
Well,
let's
I
go.
think December usually is.
Yeah, I
It's
was
just
gonna
like
say
release.
it's almost the end of the year. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some Switch 2 stuff soon, but not today.
It's never coming.
Kirby's Dream Land 3. Came out in Japan in March of 1998 and November of 97 in North America. I keep saying that it's rare that we get a game first, but I'm learning through this segment. Apparently we got a bunch of games first back then. And yeah, it's the sequel to the two Game Boy games, Kirby's Dream Land and Kirby's Dream Land 2. I don't know if Kirby's Adventure is a mainline game. I would think it is.
No idea.
Yeah, you brought it up, Harrison. They're all just Kirby games to me.
I thought this was supposed to be the sequel to that, and I was like, nope. Okay.
Yeah. It was an interesting game. This was one that I'd been putting off playing for a long time. It's one that was like, I don't know. There's so many like Kirby games even from that era that it's like intimidating. You know what I mean? It's like where do I get involved here? So one of them has like 4 games on one cart, I think the thing says, or 5 or 8 or something.
Oh,
Right.
That's Superstar, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is, in my opinion, a very overrated game, but we'll get there eventually.
And like, okay, one thing we should definitely talk about here. So November 97, this game was released on the Super Nintendo. Nintendo obviously had a habit back then
Year
of releasing
into
Kirby
N64.
games late into the console's life, right? So Kirby's Adventure came out on the NES well into the Super Nintendo's life, which was 1993. That came out on the NES.
Do
Kirby
you think that's why
Superstar.
they front-loaded on the Switch with Kirby?
Maybe. Kirby Superstar came out in 1996, which was after the Nintendo 64. And now this game is on the Super Nintendo in 97. So the crazy
that's
thing
weird.
to
I
think
thought
about here is that...
Superstar was before.
What?
I thought Superstar came out after this game. That's so weird.
No, came out before this. So the point I'm trying to make here is, think about this. When this game came out, we're already seeing gameplay footage of Ocarina of Time by this point. Like, when this game came out, we already had in our gaming libraries available to buy Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, Star Fox 64, GoldenEye, Diddy Kong Racing. Like, that's like a quarter of the Nintendo 64's best games were already out when this game came out 3 months after Final Fantasy VII. Think about that.
Yep.
After.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
And this is the last Super Nintendo game in North America, and also it wasn't released in Europe or Australia. So the first time Europe or Australia officially got this game was in 2009 on the Wii. Was the first time they got it, which directly relates to them not selling very many of this game. It sold less than 1 million copies, while in comparison, Dreamland sold over 5 million. Dreamland 2 sold over 2 million, and Crystal Shards, following after that, sold 1.7 million. So,
and I think this is a result of HAL Laboratories being who makes Kirby rather than Nintendo owning them directly. Because think about this. This is basically what happened to Star Fox 2. Star Fox 2 was going to be a late Super Nintendo game. And then they were like, wait, well, half of these ideas we can just put into a Nintendo 64 game and release that. And that's how we got Star Fox 64. That's basically what this should have been. All the ideas for this game should have been put into Kirby 64, and it should have been released on the 64.
Yeah, it feels like they just had to release it almost. Like,
yeah,
it feels like almost like we don't want to, but we have to for some reason.
And that's a good point, because
too
HAL
far.
Laboratories is not as big as Nintendo, so Nintendo finished Star Fox 2, and they could afford to just put it on the shelf, whereas HAL Laboratories probably can't afford to develop a whole game and then just shelve it.
I am convinced that Gooey is just slime from Dragon Quest.
I could
Is that
see
the character that stood out the most to you in this?
Gooey? Yeah. Well, this is one of the... I gotta say, I didn't really enjoy this one too much, and this is kind of a time where I wish that we almost played Dreamland 2 and then 3, because I don't know how I feel about this, and
yeah, I don't know if
perhaps
this is where hamsters got introduced into the franchise, but when I saw the hamsters in here, I was like, man, hamsters were big in the 90s.
Oh, for sure.
Like, that was a thing. They had a moment.
So, I kind of played this on autopilot, which was disappointing. Like, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you could just hold
Yeah.
right and finish this game. Push up every now and again to go through a door.
I don't know. It for whatever reason, because I was looking, so Kirby's Adventure is in my top 10 still right now. And no other Kirby game's gotten that high. But 2D Kirby just doesn't do much for me.
Well, I think that goes along with what I was saying about Kirby's epic yarn earlier, is I think a big appeal of a lot of Kirby games is just to look at the game design and like just look at the game. You know what I mean? Because they have no difficulty. So
But I think don't even feel like this game had that.
Exactly, and that's why, yeah, so I'm saying this game failed at it, but I think that's what they're trying to do most of the time. Like Kirby, what was the Switch one I just played? Kirby Star Allies. Kirby Star Allies was like this game. There was zero challenge, but it was beautiful to look at the whole time I was playing. So I just wanted to keep, like, it's almost like a fireworks show. Like, you just want to keep watching it. Whereas this game, I don't think... One thing visually it did explain to me is I always thought Kirby 64 had kind of an ugly layout, and now I know where that ugly layout came from because it's this game.
Yeah.
So visually I learned that.
It's weird it's the last SNES game. It's the last SNES Kirby game because like all the better ones came out before it. So it's just odd to me that this is the last one that came out. They had it in development and we're like, oh, yeah, we're supposed to release that like 4 games ago. And put it out now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, better games before and after. This is the only game that has the parasol ability.
Really?
Which might mean that it was way too overpowered for a game that's already too easy.
So this and Dream Course are the only 2 that have that?
Dream Course? I guess, or perhaps it's the only.
It might be the only platforming one. With
mainline. Go back to that definition.
Mainline. I don't know, guys. Listen, guys. We're not Kirby experts here, okay? Like,
one thing I am an expert on.
Yeah, we're trying.
One thing I am an expert on is that I hate Kirby games that I hate that all the Kirby games keep not having a run button. All right, I'm an expert on knowing that. I've played so many of them. They don't have a run button. Get a run button. I hate that they make you double tap forward to run.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah,
it's not a fighting game, guys.
I hate that in fighting games.
That too.
I'm just not as good with my left hand like that. I just can't figure it out. Last part I put is just would multiplayer make this game better, because you can play 2 players as GUI. So I don't know. I
feel like it would give you something to do while you talk about something completely unrelated.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know if it would make the game more interesting.
So it's more about, is the person you're playing with interesting or not?
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, I still ranked it above 64, which is funny. But
and I read this thing about how this game apparently uses this Super Nintendo chip thing, like a different processor that allows for different color blending. And I don't know, the game looked kind of bland color-wise to me. I'm like, yeah, where is this coming from? The color palette is so dull. I mean, and I'm dumping on this game. It sounds like I'm going to rank it like dead last. I actually did enjoy... I enjoyed it more than some of the games we've played. I'll say that. I liked looking at it.
It's dead in the middle for me, I guess.
Yeah, that's about where I put it. I'm going to put it above Scat, because I definitely enjoyed this more than Scat. And that puts it below Return of Samus, and I definitely know I liked Return of Samus more. So, yeah, that's where it's going. Number 17 on my list.
Nah, I went with number 30, so that puts it in between Dynamite Heady and Pro Wrestling.
Okay.
But still puts it above Kirby 64, because I think Kirby 64 suffered from Forgotten Land and me thinking it was a 3D Kirby game.
Yeah, I put this above. I have Kirby 64 ranked at 21, so I have this one as better as well. Because I don't know. There's something about Kirby 64 that felt like they didn't put enough thought into it, and maybe they should have taken some of the ideas from this.
Yeah,
made a Nintendo 64 game.
I'll put
Where's
it
landed, Harrison?
I'll put it 28. Just for
Okay.
context, it's between Sega Genesis Musha and WarioWare Mega Micro Games. This is not one I'll come back to. And
No, like I said, I think it's a franchise that just suffers from me not having much interest in it when it's just a 2D side scroller.
And I know people say like it's supposed to be like for little kids, this franchise, and that's why the difficulty level's so non-existent. But I mean, I was playing Super Mario games when I was like 4, so little kids can handle difficulty. I don't get that argument.
No, I agree.
I've never understood that either. But I think as far as like, especially with where the Switch is at this point in its life, having all the Kirby games on the system, or not all of them, I mean, but having a
Just
lot
about.
of them. yeah, like not like the DS games or like any of those, but like it doesn't hurt to have it on the online service for the diehard Kirby fans, because I see those YouTubers out there. Like I know those crazy Kirby fans are out there. So there's that.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just baffling to me that this was the last release, because all the ones before it are better.
It's not the last release like ever. I think they just
No, but on the Super Nintendo, because all the other SNES games are significantly better than this one. So
I'm wondering if maybe we're judging it with too much of a modern eye, but at the same time, Final Fantasy VII was out.
No, it's something that we might not see it as much with the next generation of the Switch or whatever it might be. But I mean, we've talked on here about how like they released Pro Skater 3 on N64 in like 2002, and it's like what? So it's like I think if you look at the life cycle of some of these older systems, if you look at the last games, it's just kind of weird. It's like it's very
where this game definitely fails is you should be able to take if you're putting out a Super Nintendo game in 1997, 1998 in Japan. If you're putting out a Super Nintendo game that late, you should be able to say, well, imagine if this game came out in 1991. Wouldn't it have blown people away? And I think if this game came out in 1991, it would have looked just like all the other Super Nintendo games that came out in 1991.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I mean, I guess this late release on a system is a Nintendo thing. So it kind of makes you wonder what the last few Switch releases will be. But, yeah.
Okay. Or perhaps there will be like kind of a big overlap. Perhaps we'll see games that are $60 on Switch and $70 upscaled on the next system. So,
you could, yeah.
But like I mean, I think like the last GameCube game was like NFL 2K7 or something like that. Like it's just kind of odd when you look at the very, very end of some of these systems, or like if you look at the 3DS games that came out in 2017, I always forget about that they were releasing games in 2017 for that system.
I mean, they just put out a Nintendo 64 game in 2019, so when they released that 40 Winks, but that doesn't really count. Anyway, let's find out what we're playing next week. And the randomizer has chosen the Sega Genesis classic, Echo the Dolphin. This is a game I've never understood. Yeah. I'm going to try to understand it this week, because I remember this one was a game my neighbor had, and they were like super thrilled about it, and I would try to play it, and I could never get anywhere. So
Do you fight an alien at the end or something weird?
I think so. Yeah. And you have to manage your breath underwater or something.
Yeah, I
Flipper.
don't know. It'll be
Flipper.
interesting. I've never really put a lot of time into it. I remember when it came out and everyone was like, "Oh, a dolphin game," and I was like, "Is it just because it's on Sega?
Well, I
Is that what the
think
thing is?"
here's what I'll say. I think the big
Free
deal
Willy?
about it was that
Sorry.
for the time, this game was visually amazing. Like there was nothing that looked this good. But I don't think the gameplay holds up. We'll see. We'll find out next week.
We're
But,
gonna find out. Is it better than Kirby's Dream Land 3?
yeah, I think this was basically, I don't know. We'll talk about it next week because we are not Nintendo experts. We are not Echo experts. We're just Echo. We're not even Echo fans. Let's not lie.
Yeah. You tried though. Thank you, Kevin, for trying.
Yeah. But if you're an Echo fan, let us know. Email us, nintendotherapypod@gmail.com, and we'll read your thoughts next week when we're talking about Echo. And we'll
The
talk to you
dolphin.
then. And we wish you well. Have a good week. Have a merry Christmas or a happy whatever you celebrate. And if you don't celebrate anything, just be happy. The end.
Play some video games.
Exactly. Goodbye.